Hello guys, welcome back to Dragon Exotics, and as promised, I'm doing an update video. 2 weeks with these chicks, and I've got some news for you. So last video we talked a bit about where I got the eggs and how I incubated them, and at the end of the last video, I was trying to save a duckling, as you saw. It was a Pekin duckling. It started to internally pip a bit early, like at day 25, and so, you know, I let it do its thing. However, after 24 to 36 hours of not making any progress since the internal pip, I did provide a safety hole so air could go into the egg and see if that would help it break out so it wouldn't suffocate. Because in that air sac, they only have a limited supply of air. If you do not help them once that air runs out, they will suffocate. So, fun, yay. So anyways, nothing really progressed after that, so I opened the air cap all the way, being sure to moisturize with coconut oil so that the inside would not dry out. I got to the point where the membrane wasn't necessarily surrounding the duckling anymore and it could roll out at any time. The duckling did eventually roll out on its own, and it looked like its yolk sac was still attached, which isn't great, but usually they can absorb that within a couple days as long as they don't tear it. So I kept it safe. It looked like its foot did knock the yolk sac so that it did rupture, and from what I thought, it might have absorbed enough of it to still be okay, so it would waddle around and go around the incubator for a while. But then later in the day, I noticed something strange once everything was drying up. The duckling was born with its intestines outside of its body. No, it was not an umbilical cord or a hernia. It was the intestines. It was an obvious intestinal loop, and I felt so bad for the duckling because it had worked so hard to, to survive. And in the end, it was born with a defect all along. And it died in a few hours, so it had only really survived outside of the egg for maybe less than 24 hours before dying due to that defect. But it was interesting. Some of the other ducklings that I had opened up because they didn't hatch, obviously, had died due to a similar defect. So another had been born with its organs outside of its body, and that was interesting. Things happen, but I thought I'd update you guys because stuff happens. So anyways, let's get to the update. So I will be showing you guys plenty of chicks soon, as well as my brooder setup and adding everyone and letting you know each name as I add them in. But for now, I just wanted to give you the update. Just a quick and easy update. So as you can see from the title, it does include the good, the bad, the sad. The good part is I did initially hatch 4 healthy little chicks. They're great. The bad part was that I didn't hatch any of the barred rocks and I had to buy some. I also had to buy 1 duckling because I had only hatched 1 duckling successfully. And the sad part is a story I will tell in a moment. So, stay tuned. First, before we go into, I guess, the sad, just some important things to point out is during my first 2 weeks with the chicks, I have learned a lot, including not just how messy they are, but some things that I wasn't aware of beforehand. For example, I kind of freaked out one day when I saw a bit of pinkish red in one of the chicks' poop, and I was like, oh my gosh, do you have coccidiosis? Do I need to treat you with Amprolium? What do I do? So I kind of just kept an eye on it. I was feeding that one also some medicated feed separately just to see if it would help as well. I know it won't treat coccidiosis if it had it, but I was doing what I could before the Amprolium supplement came in. So it ended up being just that the chick was shedding its intestinal lining, which can appear pink and jelly-like. Here's a picture of it right here. And it did it once and I never saw it do it again. And to this day, that was Josephine who did that, and she's fine. So I was a little bit worried because she is a bit smaller than the others, but turned out that she's still okay. So maybe it was nothing. So there are things that aren't so worrisome, and there are things that might be worrisome. So everyone else seemed to be healthy and happy. They're running around, everything's great. They had their electrolyte water, and I was hoping they'd get enough vitamins from that. And then, so the first 2 weeks really went perfectly. They're warm, they're happy, they're chirping. And then one day, I came in and I noticed that Bumps, our rooster, he was our favorite. He was the only one who was born with a vaulted skull. And I have a picture of it right here. And Silkies and other Bantams they're prone to developing vaulted skulls, partially because people breed for it because they think they look cuter and fluffier. And so when they show them in like FFA and 4-H, they just look prettier. And so people will breed them with it. Some people successfully raise vaulted skull Silkies and others not so much. The problem with the vaulted skull is that the skull is not necessarily hardened and it is not completely surrounding the brain. And that makes the brain more susceptible to injury and other conditions that can cause the chick to not survive. And so that's what Bumps had. Out of all my chicks, he was the only Silkie with a vaulted skull. He actually came from a twin egg, so there were 2 embryos in the egg, and one of them died early on, but he survived. So that was interesting. When he first hatched, I was a little bit worried because his legs would have little spasms, but he ended up getting over it and he was fine. He grew up, he was fluffy, healthy, chirping. He grew as fast as the others and everything was great. He would practice flying, you know, like flapping his little wings. They'd get some exercise. And I'm suspecting that something happened during his exploring phase that caused what I'm about to tell you. So I came in one day and Bumps had his neck, which normally should be up, curled under his body, like kind of between his legs, which is a little video right here. So he was having issues whenever I like tried to, you know, move him. He'd back up and act all freaked out. He couldn't move forward. Occasionally he would like lift his head for a second before it went back down. And these were all symptoms of Ryeneck, which is really called torticollis in chickens. And it's caused typically by a vitamin E deficiency that shows the common symptom of the neck tilting inward or upward and stargazing. So they kind of just have a blank expression on their face and looking out to nowhere. And so I was like, okay, maybe it's that. That could be easy enough to treat because usually Ryeneck doesn't kill the chick if you get some vitamin E supplements and treat them ahead of time. Typically Ryeneck will kill the chicks because they starve to death or are dehydrated because they can't drink or eat. So I was pretty hopeful. I was hoping that that's what it was. And so the first day he would, if I held his neck, like straightened his neck, he'd eat out of the bowl. And I'm like, oh great, he's eating on his own. But then the next day I started to suspect that Ryeneck might not have been the cause. So I was thinking of other conditions in which some people think that crazy chick disease and Ryeneck are the same thing. They're not. Crazy chick disease is called cherry cerebellum, where it's in this encephalomalacia where the brain kind of swells up and it looks all bloody. So if I had to describe it, that's how it would look, a bloody brain. And so that is caused by a vitamin E deficiency that causes a decrease in the antioxidants in the chick, which then causes oxidation of the cell membrane, causing death and necrosis and all of these kind of neurological symptoms. So usually that can be like the legs look blue, so cyanosis, and it also can be other neurological symptoms, or even Ryeneck could be, or torticollis can be a symptom of cherry cerebellum or crazy chick disease. And so I'm like, oh no, did he have that? And typically for that, These signs of crazy chick disease do not usually occur from up to days 7 to 30. So it can occur anywhere in that time frame. And so I was like, okay, you know, that's a rare condition. That could be what happened. It looks very similar. Or third option was because he has a vaulted skull, he could have been exploring, and as he was flapping, it is possible that he hit his head on something, or another chick could have pecked his head, caused damage, and it could have swelled, and he could have died from just brain injury. So I don't know if it was crazy chick disease. I don't know if it was a head injury due to his susceptible vaulted skull. I don't know. I don't think it was just Rhineck due to plain vitamin E deficiency. As I said, these guys already got vitamin supplements. He was the only one with the issue. And so I'm leaning towards it was a head injury. And that's just something to keep in mind. Know the breed of chicken that you guys have, because things like that can happen. And you want to be aware of injuries that they can be susceptible to. So if you have silkies and you have a vaulted skull silkie, just keep an eye on it. Stuff can happen. But everyone else is doing great. So that was just some stuff that I learned. Ducks make a big mess. Chicks poop a lot. It's been fun. But so far everyone's growing in their feathers. They're really happy. I mean, the only big thing that happened was with Bumps. And here is just a video of him the last day I tried to feed him. So he's right here. And so in this video, he just he didn't want to eat. It was completely different than the first day. And so I had gotten all these vitamin supplements. They were set to come in. I had a final that day as soon as I got home. I had pretty much touched him and he immediately just died. His legs splayed out. It was over. But I tried. I did my best. Sometimes you just can't save them. Sometimes they have issues. He was a twin egg. He hatched. He had a vaulted skull. He survived for a bit. It's too bad I couldn't save him, but that stuff does happen. So, things to be aware of. That was just my first experience with the chicks and ducklings. But nothing other than that. Everyone else is healthy. So, I had a good hatch rate for the most part for the chicks. Not so much for the ducks, but everyone else is good to go. So, enough of me talking because I'm sure that's super boring to you guys. Let's look at some chicks. The brooder I have set up is literally just a playpen for small animals like this right here. And I can set some links in the description if you guys are interested. And I'm gonna walk you through pretty much how I set it up and what I've been doing for the past 2 weeks. I will hope to give you guys an update in a bit, maybe. We'll see. We'll see if I do an 8-week update or something similar to that. I know that the next video I'm doing, and I'll talk about a bit later, is going to be a disease video where I talk in more detail about diseases like crazy chick disease, Rhineck, vaulted skull, Salmonella, E. coli, coccidiosis, which is actually from an Eimeria species, by the way, and some other diseases that chicks and chickens do get, as well as ducks. So let's have some fun, look at some chicks, and here we go. All right, so I just wanted to show you how I set up my brooder. Of course, I am cleaning it for today. These guys make it messy so quick. And when I mean quick, I mean like you'll have it spotless at the end of this video it will be, and within the next couple hours or so, it's just disgusting. Mainly because I have ducks and chickens in the same enclosure. So the ducks like to play in the water, which makes it splatter everywhere. So yeah, it's pretty fun. It'll be nice when they're moved out, they have their own pond and they'll be all happy. But for now, let's set up this brooder. And I haven't had any other issues housing the ducks and chicks together. They do well, no fighting, everything seems well. I am just using these puppy pads to line the bottom of this brooder. And right here, just trying to keep it even. This is so whether you have new chicks or you have sick chicks, you want to be able to monitor their droppings. For example, if you freak out because you realize, oh my gosh, I think there's blood in my chick's poop. Well, maybe you want to add some paper towels or some puppy pads on the bottom of the brooder so you can monitor that to see if it's getting better or worse. It is very helpful, and I found it also helps kind of keep them a bit more clean as opposed to if they had pine shavings the entire time, because I know with the ducks that'll get moist and that can cause issues. As I said, having a moist environment can cause aspergillus to kind of run rampant, and it can make your chicks sick. And so you do not want that, because sick chicks are not fun. And I will be going more into detail about chick diseases and duckling diseases in the next video, so you guys know what to look for when having chicks and ducklings, what you need to do if you see certain symptoms, and all of that fun stuff. But today, we're just doing a setup and kind of a review of how their first 2 weeks have gone with me. So once the puppy pads are down, you can use pine flakes or fresh flakes of any kind that you get at the store to just line the bottom. It might help you with the cleanup. It depends. If you have ducks, it might just be moist and kind of gross for a while. So I'm waiting to add the pine shavings until I actually add all my chicks and can make sure they're healthy, and then I'll decide what to do from there. But the specific pine shavings that I showed you are heat dried to prevent mold spores, as well as E. coli and salmonella. At least that's what it says. So if you're getting some, maybe try to get some pine flakes that will be beneficial like that one is. The next thing I'll be adding is the water. Now, this doesn't look like water. It's actually just a plate with some paper towels on top. That is because these guys make a mess with their water. And right here, as you can see, is the water. You may be thinking, oh my gosh, why is your water orange? There's a simple explanation to that, don't you worry. This right here is what makes it orange. This is the electrolyte. It's just an electrolyte mix that you add to chick and duckling water. Helps give them some extra vitamins as a supplement. And it's really great, especially if you have new chicks or ducklings that are really stressed. They need those extra vitamins to kind of keep them going, keep them safe, and keep them alive. So it's pretty great. One of these packets mixes into a gallon of water, so make sure that you give the right amount. You don't want to overdose them on this. Another thing that I do add is the probiotics. Same brand. I will have a link of these in the description. And these also kind of just help with their gut health, and it's a digestive supplement. So if you have issues with diarrhea, maybe even constipation, it kind of just helps with their digestive health overall. It's not gonna hurt them if you add it, but as I said, make sure you do add the correct amount. You don't want to be overdosing these guys because chicks are very fragile and the littlest thing can kill them. Next, we're going to be adding a feeder right here. And I use non-medicated chick feed. And let's see, we'll put that there. The non-medicated chick feed is important in this case because I'm housing chicks and ducks together. Now, ducks, because they eat more as ducklings, they're always in the food bowl, they cannot have the same amount of medicated feed that chicks had, mainly because the amprolium concentration can be too high for them because they're eating more than the chicks would, so they can overdose on it. Some people have raised ducklings on medicated chick feed and have had no problems. I think it depends, maybe if you're using an older brand or an older version versus a newer version. But for me personally, I do like to play it safe. As I said, do your own research before you decide to do this, but I play it safe, non-medicated, and I do add the duck starter. When I give the ducks their baths in the bathtub, I let them have a little snack on duck starter so they can get that extra niacin supplement, because ducks do require niacin to grow properly. So I do that. You also can use brewer's yeast just to help them out. But things to keep in mind with the feed: non-medicated if you're using ducklings, that's what I do. And yeah, supplement with duckling feed if you need more niacin. So feed, yay. In the medicated feed, just to add, in case you guys don't know, it does help prevent coccidiosis, because there are different strains of the cocci in the environment. They try to expose the chicks as much as they can at a young age, so that if they do happen to get exposed to a coccidiosis strain, then they will be protected, at least as much as they can be. If you have a new chick who isn't exposed at all, they can just have a bunch of blood in their feces and they can end up dying from it if you don't treat them. It's one of those things that can kill a lot of chicks. So yeah, fun things to be aware of. Anyways, on a more fun note, we're going to be adding this little perch. This is for enrichment, so they can have some fun. They like to hop on it and practice flapping their little wings. They seem to enjoy it a lot. It also helps them learn to grip things. The next component we're going to be adding is probably the most important. I do not use a heat lamp. 1, because of fire danger. 2, because do you honestly think I'm gonna get a heat lamp on this thing? It has a mesh top. It would burn right through it. So if you're doing the heat lamps, I'll post a picture right here somewhere on the screen. You can use the ceramic heater, that way it's dark and it emits enough heat for the chicks and ducklings. And depending on the age of the chicks and ducklings, they may require different minimum heat ranges. And so I will put those numbers right here. And once you're done checking out the heat ranges for the chicks and ducklings, then you have to, choose the heat. Do you want the ceramic heater or do you want a red light? Some people go with the red light because chicks are, they're notorious for pecking at red things. And so some people say that if they use a red light, helps the chicks from pecking at each other because all they see is the same color. I don't know about that, but I prefer to use this right here. It's one of the comfort, it's like a comfort heat pad, is what they call it. It's adjustable, so you can like raise, there it is, you can raise these or lower them. So if you have tall chicks, if they're growing, you can make it taller so it's not burning them. But I'm gonna put that right here. I have it at an angle so that if they want a super warm side, they can have it. If they want a not so warm side, they can have that as well. And it's pretty well. So keep that in mind with your heating. I also like these brooder heat pads because they are low energy, so low wattage, and they do not pose much of a fire hazard. Some people don't factor in with the heat lamps how far they need to have the heat lamps, if they're sturdy, if a cat knocks it over and they wake up to a house fire or a barn fire, and that could be scary. So I prefer to keep it safe and use this. The very last thing I will be adding today are, I had an issue with one of my chicks. I noticed that her little toe feathers, her little leg feathers were being pecked at, and so there's a little bit of blood there, causing the other chicks to peck at it because, as I said, chicks peck the color red. And so what I did is I cleaned it up as much as I could, and then I added these. These were just some balls that I had around the house. They're like foam, and I put some red dots all over them. You can just put them there like that, and I just kind of put them in here. So I also put them in here just for enrichment in case they want to peck at something. Sometimes chickens and chicks are just bored and they want to peck at something. So I've noticed that adding enrichment like these can help distract them from those behaviors. Okay guys, time for the fun part. Yay! This is supposed to be thumbs up. This is an odd camera angle. So first, we're going to be adding the chicks I have so far. I'd like to mention that as you heard in the first part of this video, I only have 4. Well, actually, I only have technically 3 of my silky hens, 2 barred rock hens. And so I need a silky rooster, as described earlier. And I'm still waiting on 1 more barred rock hen to hatch. So they came from a different batch. But yeah, so I'm going to add the ones I have now, and maybe in an update video, you guys will see the newest additions, but you guys gotta let me know what you want. First, we're gonna be adding the largest of all my little friends. This, everyone, is Daisy. Say hello, Daisy. She doesn't want to say hello. She's very cute though. There you go, Daisy. Go have fun. So that's Daisy. She is the one that I picked up at Cow Ranch because I didn't want this little one to be lonely when she hatched. This is Minnie. I'm curious to see what Minnie's gonna look like as an adult. She is from a hybrid batch. So she could be all white like a normal pekin, or she could be special. I don't know. She's slightly darker than Daisy, so we'll see. Those are our ducks. And I did give an update on the beginning of this video, if you guys had just skipped to the fun part, about what happened to that 3rd duck that I was trying to hatch. All right, next, we're going to add our barred rocks. Let's see. This right here is Colette. Hello, Colette. As you can see. Right here is Suzette. Hello, Suzette. These are barred rock hens. And I can always post a video in the future on how to sex chickens, whether it be silkies or barred rock hens or ducks in the future. If you would like, just let me know. You can do feather sexing, you can do DNA tests. Sometimes, you know, if you're skilled enough, you can do vent sexing. Oh my, she just hopped right out of there, but she's fine, see? Because she can flap. There we go. Next, we're gonna grab you 2. Let's see. You guys are so similar. It's getting harder and harder to tell you apart. This right here is Gigi. I'm just gonna show you to the face. Yep. Oh geez. There we go. This is Gigi. This is my lovely Rosita. And if you guys know where these names are coming from, then good for you. If you don't, these are the names of the showgirl birds from Disneyland's Enchanted Tiki Room. Now, I get it. The showgirl birds are cockatoos. But you know what? Silky chickens are pretty fluffy and adorable, so they deserve the names. Last but not least, one of my favorites. This is Josephine. Say hello, Josephine. Oh my goodness. There you are, Josephine. When we do have 1 more of the barred rocks hatching, her name will most likely be Mimi if she survives and hatches. So stay tuned for that. But as of right now, that is what I have. You've noticed that they've already made a mess and like there and there. These guys make messes like instantly. It's crazy. But with that, I think I'll end the video on that note. You guys can enjoy watching some of these lovely little chicks for a while. And if there's any questions, you guys can totally comment below. I did want to mention before I leave that this has a mesh cover that I can zip up. Because even though these guys are staying in another room, I do want to make sure that they can't hop out of it. And in case a cat gets in here, I want to make sure that, you know, they won't destroy everything. and try to get my chicks. So totally unlike this experience here. But anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you learned something. This is just my experience, my setup. Hope you enjoyed the first part of the video and this part of the video. And I will leave you with some ducks and chicks. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time. Bye.